Hey YouTube, this is Jack Connor. I just wanted to talk to you about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I am a huge Star Wars nerd. I was raised on Star Wars. I was born in 1976. Somebody that would grow up to be a science fiction and fantasy writer. So you can imagine that Star Wars meant a lot to me when I was growing up, and it really did. And I have, been a huge fan all my life of the series. So, what did I think about The Last Jedi? No, and spoilers, obviously, I'm going to spoil everything. I'm going to talk about every little thing that I want to talk about. I'm a big fan of the Rogue One and The Force Awakens. I love those movies. I think that The Force Awakens set up a new trilogy very well. There are some things I didn't like about it. I have some issues with The Force Awakens. In some ways, it is very much a reboot or rehash of A New Hope. And that's unfortunate, but I understand why J.J. Abrams felt he needed to do that. He needed to remind people what Star Wars was. After the prequels, a lot of people really lost faith and hope in Star Wars. I love Rogue One. After Rogue One, Star Wars movie can be anything. It doesn't have to have Jedi in it. It can be dark. The heroes can die. Rogue One was gritty and raw and fun. You had a great space battle, a lot of wonderful practical effects and sets, and I really like Rogue One. So, what did I think of The Last Jedi? Well, unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of it, and here's why. Now, I don't want to be entirely negative. I love Star Wars. I want to contribute to a positive atmosphere of Star Wars. But that said, I think a positive atmosphere is an atmosphere in which there are good movies. And in order for there to be good movies, we need to give Lucasfilm good feedback and constructive feedback so that they can go and make better movies in the future. The Last Jedi is not a good movie. Over half of the movie involves subplots involving Poe, Finn, and Rose. Plots that don't go anywhere. Those plots don't actually contribute to the resolution of the movie in any way. Finn and Rose's storyline, they fail. They don't work. They fail. Their storyline does not contribute to the plot. Poe's storyline, he's just arguing with his superiors and subverting them. He is proven wrong initially, but then their plan also failed. When they get to the planet at the end, they are going to call for help. Help never arrives, except in the form of Luke Skywalker, who they did not call for. So over half the movie is devoted to plots that don't matter, unfortunately. Were there any good new additions to the Star Wars galaxy? Any new great, characters or settings that, further the evolution of this universe? No. There's no new Yodas. There's no new Lando Calrissians. There's no new Cloud Cities. There's nothing that Rian Johnson has added to Star Wars to make it better. But he did take some stuff away from Star Wars that make that universe less grand and less interesting. Obviously, Luke Skywalker dies in The Last Jedi. And, it breaks my heart to see him die, but I would be okay with him passing if his ending was done better. It is not done very well. His entire character is not done very well in The Last Jedi. The writer of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson, does not seem to understand Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker would not have abandoned establishing a new generation of Jedi just because of one tragedy. He would have persevered and gone on to build a new school, train new Jedi. J.J. Abrams set up some stuff in The Force Awakens where Luke had gone off to find the first Jedi Temple. and it was implied there might be some greater plot meaning to that. And I was really hoping that would be the case. Rey would show up, they would find the Last Jedi temple. That would lead somewhere plot related. And but that didn't happen. Rian Johnson was not interested in any way in continuing what J.J. Abrams had set up in The Force Awakens. In fact, Rian Johnson very much wanted to undo what J.J. Abrams had established. The mystery of Rey's parents? Who cares? Not Rian Johnson. J.J. Abrams established in several scenes in The Force Awakens that Rey's parentage, or at least who she is important in some way. She tells BB-8 that it's a top secret, which obviously was a joke on her part, but it was also a wink from J.J. Abrams to the audience that it was important. When Kylo Ren finds out that there is a girl in possession of BB-8 who has Luke's whereabouts, he freaks out. What girl, he says. So he seems to have known about Rey and been on guard for her arrival in the greater plot. Similarly, Han Solo and Maz Kanata later in that movie talk about Rey, and when she asks about Rey, we cut. So obviously who she is important, and of course she is able to learn things like how to fight with a lightsaber with no training. So Rey's identity, whether it's her parentage or something else, is important. That was well set up in The Force Awakens, and it was not carried out in a satisfying or engaging manner in The Last Jedi. I'm okay with Rey not being related to anybody of significance in the other movies. I think it's a good thing that the Force belongs to everybody. I think it's a healthy and positive thing, and you shouldn't be, it shouldn't be that the only way to arrive at Force potential is to be born of it. We don't want royal bloodlines in the Star Wars universe. But that said, there is something really magical about Luke being Anakin's son and about the Force being strong in that family. That's kind of what makes the Skywalkers special. And it would have been okay with me to continue that. But I'm also okay with them not continuing that and her being not related to anybody. Personally, I was rooting for her to be a Kenobi or even a Palpatine. That didn't happen, and that's fine. But the fact that her identity was set up as being important and that wasn't carried out is significant. It shows that Rian Johnson is not on the same page as J.J. Abrams. That's not good when you're telling a 3-act story. You have a setup, you have a middle, you have an ending. The middle follows the setup. This does not follow the setup. It undoes a lot of the setup. Let's talk about Snoke. They kill the villain of the movie, of this new trilogy. They kill the villain of the trilogy. Is that a good idea? No. Why is it a bad idea? Why is it not a good idea for Kylo Ren to now become the central villain? Well, there's one scene in The Last Jedi where Kylo goes before Snoke, and Snoke takes him out in half a second with a burst of lightning. Kylo cannot stand against Snoke. Snoke is way more powerful than Kylo Ren. Snoke is a titanic force of evil, and Star Wars needs a titanic force of evil in order for it to work. It needs a Dark Lord. Kylo Ren is not a Dark Lord. He lost to Rey their first battle, and she had no training. He has not done anything interesting or ass-kicking so far in the trilogy. Yes, he's okay. He can hold his own in a fight. He's got force abilities. He's, got angst. And I like Kylo. I think that Adam Driver has done a great job with Kylo, and Kylo is an interesting character, and I can't wait to see what happens with him. But he really needed somebody to play off of that was above him. We need that dynamic in Star Wars. We need the master apprentice relationship in the evil side, in the good side. Now we don't have that, and it's harder to see where things are going to go from here. I have some ideas. I think that a way to save Episode 9 is to reintroduce a titanic force of evil that is much greater than Kylo Ren in Episode 9. I think it would be very fitting and wonderful if Snoke had been part of a cabal of evil force users. And he wasn't even the top of that cabal. There is a lord of that cabal, and he was possibly a first lieutenant or something. And now that dark cabal, that dark council of evil doers, are going to come after Kylo Ren to get revenge. And that would give Kylo Ren some interesting stuff to play off of. And it would provide us, the fans, with a great evil presence that the Star Wars universe needs. Now let's talk about Luke. Rian Johnson wants Luke to fulfill the Yoda imprint in The Last Jedi. He's the curmudgeonly Jedi in exile that needs to train the new hero of the trilogy. And, that could work, I guess, if they had done it well. They didn't do it well. Luke does not act like Luke. As I've said, Luke would not have simply walked off because of one failure. He would have persevered and continued on and passed on what he had learned. That's what Yoda told him to do, and he was going to do it. So Luke is not Luke in this. He is not written well. He is not written like Luke. Even Mark Hamill has said he profoundly disagreed with Rian Johnson's choices. He would obligingly carry them out and give them life, but he did not agree with them. He knows Luke better than any of us, and he did not agree with what Rian Johnson did. And I have to agree with Mark Hamill's assessment. I was hoping he was wrong and he was overreacting and he was too close to the material, but he wasn't. He was right. Rian Johnson does not seem to get Luke. He doesn't seem to get heroism in general. Rian Johnson is a deconstructionist, and he wants to tear down everything that has been built up in previous movies. The mythology, the heroes, the villains. He wants to burn it all down. That's Rian Johnson's strategy. He wants to reduce everything. Even the rebellion, the resistance, is reduced to a handful of people inside the Millennium Falcon. That's what the resistance is down to. And Kylo Ren, who's not even very powerful, is now in charge of the First Order. That's what we're left with at the end of The Last Jedi. It's really hard to see where we're going to go from here, and there's nothing that he really sets up to carry on in the next one. I liked all the stuff between Kylo Ren and Rey and Luke. I thought that was done well. I didn't think that Luke was done very well, but I thought all those exchanges were written well and done very well. And I really liked the relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey. I thought that was very good and interesting uses of the Force. And I like how Snoke was manipulating them into getting closer. Sadly, it didn't work out for Snoke. But I thought all that was very interesting and well done. And there were definitely some good parts to The Last Jedi. Such as that. Was there anything else? Well, I enjoyed seeing all the characters play off against each other and do stuff in the Star Wars universe. There continues to be very good characters like Poe and Finn that are really great side characters and who are performed very well. And I look forward to seeing what they do in the next one. I think they were completely wasted and misused in this one. Finn accomplished nothing. He and Rose, their storyline, did not contribute in any way to the resolution of the movie. Poe, likewise, did nothing to contribute to the resolution of the ending of the movie. The resolution of the movie. So, good characters doing stuff does not make a good movie, unfortunately. They have to do good things that contribute to a good plot, and they did not. Rose was a weak character. She was okay. I think that Rian Johnson is trying to be extremely politically correct, and we can't have anybody, no royal bloodlines. All the side characters that are the plumbers and the mechanics, they get to be heroes. It's very social justice warrior-y, honestly. The First Order is a bunch of white conservative guys, and the Rebellion is a bunch of a diverse cast of male and female. So we very much have a political message being put forth, as well as the Canto Bite sequence, where we learn that all the rich people are evil and mistreating the animals and the kids. And war profiteering is bad. Thank you, Rian Johnson, for telling us that war profiteering is bad. The whole idea of war profiteering and weapons manufacturing for good guys and bad guys is actually done pretty well in the Marvel movies with Iron Man. Iron Man is a war profiteer. He makes weapons and sells them, and it's only when he realizes they are being used by the enemy that he retires from that. And so that's explored in an interesting and good way in the Marvel movies. It's not explored in an interesting and good way here, sadly. Let's talk about Poe. I like Poe a lot. He's a good guy. He's a good character. He's a hero. He's the hero we need, since that's not anybody else. Rey is kind of stepping up to be a hero. She wasn't really much of a hero in The Force Awakens. They did a disservice to Rey by focusing so much time on Han Solo and Finn in The Force Awakens, where they didn't give her enough time, they didn't give her character enough room to breathe and to become really the central figure of that movie. Unfortunately, like with A New Hope, they give Luke a lot of time. We really grow to love and understand Luke, and he is very much the main character of A New Hope, of Episode 4, and very much the main character of that trilogy. It's only in The Last Jedi where Rey steps up and really becomes more of the main character. And that is one thing that Rian Johnson does well, is he does Rey very well. He writes Rey very well. She is acted very well. And I think that it is only in The Last Jedi where Rey becomes the hero of the trilogy. So that is one good thing about The Last Jedi. Sadly, it's about the only thing that I like about The Last Jedi. Let's talk about the humor in The Last Jedi. There are several very silly scenes. We have weird aliens sticking coins in BB-8. We have BB-8 shooting coins at stormtroopers or guards. We have Poe cracking weird jokes before a battle to Hux. Are you there? Can you hear me? I'll hold. That was very silly, and it very much undercut the grim battle that was about to happen. And it was a very silly battle. One X-Wing takes out all the guns on a dreadnought. That's stupid. They've been fighting the Rebellion or the Resistance for many years now. They know that the Rebellion or the Resistance uses small, nimble fighters, and they would be prepared to deal with that. It makes no sense that an X-Wing could take out all the guns on a ship. Okay, moving on. The humor was very silly and very modern and not very Star Wars-y in broad strokes. There were a few little things here and there that were Star Wars-y humor, but in general, the humor did not land for me. If it landed for you, that's fine. Obviously, your opinion may differ from mine, and if we disagree on some things, that's fine. We can all have our own opinions. Obviously, your mileage may vary. You may love The Last Jedi, and that's great. I'm happy for you. I don't want to take that away from you. I just want to contribute my voice to the conversation on this so that hopefully we can move forward and make what I think would be better Star Wars movies in the future. Honestly, the thought of Rian Johnson now making his own Star Wars trilogy really, unnerves me and terrifies me because I think he did such a terrible job in The Last Jedi. He fundamentally does not seem to understand Star Wars. There are heroes, there is good, there is evil. It's okay to be a hero. Rian Johnson doesn't seem to think it's okay to be a hero. If you're a hero, you must be demoted, you must fail in everything you do. Finn's sacrifice, would be a good example of that. Finn was going to sacrifice himself to save everybody, but his big moment was undercut by Rose, who denies him that heroic sacrifice. I'm very happy to see Finn continue in the next movie, but that is another example of a hero being denied his heroic moment. Another good example of a hero being denied their heroic moment is the end of the movie. This is the movie where Rey needs to come into her own and be the hero. She should have had the final battle. She should have been involved in the climax of the movie in a bigger way than simply piloting or even just manning the guns, rather, of the Millennium Falcon and a very stupid last battle. Seriously, they didn't do anything. The fighters, the little fighters on the ground, they didn't even reach the AT-ATs or the big cannon to engage them in battle. They went into battle and then they ran away. That was one more plot element that didn't go anywhere, much like Finn's sacrifice. Anyway, so Rey should have been involved in the last battle, just like Luke fought Darth Vader at the end of the second movie in the original trilogy. He was very much the protagonist of that movie and involved in the ending of that movie. Rey was not involved in the ending of The Last Jedi to a very large extent. She was the hero. She should have had a big heroic moment, a big final battle, but they were trying to focus on Luke and kill Luke off weirdly for no reason, and in a very bad storytelling, because again, it should have been Rey's moment, but it wasn't. They gave that moment to Luke, and personally I would have been happy if Luke had been the main character for the whole new trilogy, but he wasn't, and I'm fine with it being a new generation, but they should have kept him alive, had him do stuff in episode 9, and had Rey be the hero that does something heroic in the final scenes of The Last Jedi. If you enjoy this video, let me know. Please click like and subscribe. I may do more videos like this in the future. And also, please tell me what you think. Did you like The Last Jedi? Do you agree with me? Do you completely disagree with me? Did you love the movie? Tell me all about it in the comments below.